Hello chess friends and welcome to Zarov's chess channel and welcome to our series How to Spot Chess Tactics. So in this series we're following the common positions in which you should try tactical possibilities, in which you should try tactical shots in order to make something happen. And today we'll analyze this so-called endangered queen position. So basically in this series we are asking ourselves, when is it possible to create tactics? So there are positions in which tactical possibilities are more often than in other positions. So this endangered queen is such a position in which you should really try to see tactics. Sometimes it's not possible, but sometimes it is, and when it is, you should really recognize the possibility to win the game very easily, to win the game very effectively. And the most common positions in which you can create a tactical shot with an endangered queen is this unnatural queen position. So this unnatural queen's position, it means maybe the queen is cornered, maybe it's on a square like a8, h8, h1, a1 and similar ideas. Maybe the queen is too centralized. There are many minor pieces which can attack your queen, so this would be also an unnatural position of the queen. But the more harder positions to recognize is this position in which you maybe have taken the common, it will be sort of a natural square for your piece, but you have taken that square with your queen, or you have taken an unnatural square for your queen by some other piece. So I'll show you through some examples what are the possibilities of this tactical shots. But when that happens, you should really take your time and pause sometimes in your own games when you see this queen is really not supposed to be here. Maybe these tactical shots are hard to see, but in this series we are trying to improve our tactical skills. In this series we want to search for tactics. So one of the most common queen traps is this position of this so-called poison pawn, when the queen is a little bit greedy. I like to call it the greedy queen, in which your opponent takes out maybe a pawn, but when he takes the pawn, then you have a huge attack against the queen, and maybe you can trap it. Not all of these queen hunts are ending with queen traps, but at least you can get some tempos. Maybe you can get some activity. Maybe you can get some huge material. Maybe you can grab a bishop or a rook or a knight by chasing your opponent's queen. But that was all possible because the queen was greedy and took this so-called poison pawn. But let's see now a couple of examples. I'll show you what's all about. So here in this first example, we have a game played by Paul Murphy with the black pieces. And Paul Murphy, of course, a great tactician. He always played great tactical battles. Here his opponent played the move queen to d3, and you see this queen has taken a very natural square for the bishop. So this bishop is supposed to be on the square d3, not the queen. So the queen has come out very early in the game, and now Paul Murphy, of course, saw this tactical possibility. You can always pause the video and try to find the best next move. All of these games that I'm showing you today, these examples, will be in the description below, so you can maybe watch the whole games, analyze it on some engines. Here the best move is of course bishop takes b4. After a takes b4, we have knight takes b4, and see how problematic now this queen becomes, because the bishop is not here, the queen is there, and now the queen has to move. Here queen to d2 was played by Murphy's opponent, and now we have rook to c2, we have queen to d1, and now knight to d3, and this was game over. The queen is trapped, the queen doesn't have good squares, and it was game over. But that was all possible because Murphy's opponent was really careless. He should have played maybe bishop to d3 or bishop to e2. Queen to d2 was a possibility, but he has taken a natural square here for the bishop and got punished. And Murphy, of course, saw this tactic. So here is a position in which the piece, as I said, here I mentioned this also, the piece has taken a natural square for the queen. So this should be sort of a square which the queen has to occupy, because you see this rook has taken now a very important square for the queen to escape. Now basically the queen has only two squares on the board, and this is too much to handle, I think. Again, pause the video and try to find the best next move. It's really a great tactical shot. After this game, basically white has to black has to resign immediately. There's nothing much to do. And here white, I hope you could have found this find this move because here it's again not so easy to see, but the more important thing is to recognize that this rook has taken out a very important square for the queen, and here white played simply bishop takes f7. First the check, black has to react, which is the most important thing. Rook takes f7, and now knight to c4. There's no good square for the queen here. Black tried b6, but now knight takes a5 and b takes a5. Okay, the game was prolonged, but this is simply winning for white, and of course white won the game. It was the game between Mikhail Botvinnik against Georgi Stepanov. So let's see now another example. Again, we have this similar position. Again, this rook has taken a very important square for the queen. Again, I'm pointing out in this series we're trying to improve our tactical skills. I just want you to recognize sometimes this pattern that this rook has taken the square for the queen. Sometimes it's not possible, sometimes it is. But when it happens, then again I'm pointing out can win games very easily, very effectively. Again, you see we have the possibility to play rook to a3. The queen has again only one square, which is again not good. The queen wants to have, of course, the good diagonals, good files, good spaces, and here after queen to b6 there's nothing much to do because here knight to c4 again the queen has to react. We have queen to b4, and again try to find the best next move. Pause the video, trap the queen. In the game, white tried bishop to d6, attacking the queen, not allowing the queen to escape on dark squares. Now the rook has to take, but now comes c3. We have queen to b5, and now rook to a5, and again it was game over. That was all possible because we recognized the possibility here of a tactical shot. We recognized these problems again of this rook to d8 idea. Again, this rook has taken a very important square for the queen, and again I wanted you sometimes to recognize that in your own games because you can play really brilliant. Like here again, this was also a top grandmaster game. It was a game played by Alexander Belyavsky, also a respected grandmaster, and of course he saw this tactic. So here we have really an unnatural queen's position. This is really weird position of the queen. The queen doesn't have any activity. Here it's not a problem about this rook on d8, but here this queen on b5 is really endangered. Again, the queen doesn't have good squares. The queen is also a little bit stuck to the defense of this knight on b4. This knight is attacked by the queen on d2. So again, pause the video and try to find the best next move. But here I'm pointing out in this particular examples, I'm telling you there are tactics, that are tactical possibilities. But in your own games, you won't have someone who tells you there are some tactics. I wanted to just to show you these patterns. Now the queen is endangered here. Maybe we could search for a tactical shot. And here Albin Prince played a very cool move. He played the move knight takes e5. The most important thing about this move is to deflect this knight on e5 from the square c5. Now then we would have the possibility to play rook to c5 and trap the queen. So here that's why bishop takes e5 was played, and now rook to c5. That's the most important move now in the continuation of the game, because if you take with the knight, then we can simply take the bishop and the black gets checkmated. So here knight to d5 was played, but now rook takes b5, and after a takes b5, knight to c5, and it was game over. Again, we have the same tactical shot. We want to grab the bishop and simply checkmate black. So great tactics here by Alvin Prince. Here we have this so-called greedy queen, which is this poison pawn situation again. Sometimes when your opponent is going after this b7 pawn, or from black's perspective this b2 pawn, then you should again try to maybe trap the queen, because the queen would be again endangered. Here queen takes b7 was played. It was a game played by Artur Jobava against Grishchuk here with the black pieces, and here knight to c5 was played by Grishchuk, again taking out some important squares for the queen. We have queen to c6, and now rook to c8, attacking the queen. Here the queen has only one square. Again the queen gets endangered. Again, queen to c6, but now rook to b6, and Grishuk trapped Yobava's queen, and it was game over. After this move, Yobava resigned. So see how dangerous this poison pawn is sometimes to go after this b7, b2 pawn. It's really tricky. Sometimes these pieces were really dancing around white's queen, and Yobava got punished. This was a blitz game, although, but it was a great attack, I think, by Grishuk, recognizing this tactical possibilities in a fast style. It's really great, and Grishuk is, of course, one of the best chess players these days, and here he outplayed Yobava with some great tactics. Okay, I hope you realize these ideas. As I said, this is the most important thing to memorize from this video. So when the queen takes out a natural square for the piece, search for tactics. When the piece takes a natural square for the queen, search for tactics. When the queen is on a natural square, search for tactics. Or when the queen goes after a poison pawn, when the queen gets greedy, go after tactics, search for tactics. As I mentioned, sometimes it's not possible, but I just want you to recognize it sometimes, because it's very important to create tactics in your games, win games very easily, very effectively, like here Grishuk did, and then you get really happy when you win such games. You get really this great feeling about chess, and that's why I wanted to help you out with some great tactical motifs. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this video. Meanwhile, you can watch my other how to spot chess tactics videos with some more pattern recognitions in your own middle games, and you can also watch my chess tactics and chess puzzles videos, in which I show you all of the possible tactical motifs that can happen to in a chess game. And you can also watch my basics in chess series, in which I show you opening principles, middle game strategies, and the endgame strategies in your chess game. And you can also subscribe to my channel if you like this content. Thank you for watching, guys, and chess is the best, of course.